warm welcome back. Welcome to our next session, Industry 5.0, Redefining Manufacturing for the Human-Centric Revolution. Our moderator for this session is Charles Ross, Principal Technology and Society Asia Pacific from Economist Impact. He leads the research and analysis on the intersection of technology and society in the region, and he has an expertise in AI, digital transformation, and innovation policy. He's a sought-after speaker and moderator on tech and society topics. So ladies and gentlemen, let's have a huge round of applause as I would like to invite Charles Ross on stage.
Excellent, thank you very much. Hello everybody, thank you. Hope you can all hear me okay. Sound is good, excellent. Hope you all enjoyed your lunch. I had a quick one over in the dining hall. Excellent food. I love coming to India for the food. My wife tells me I eat way too much though, but it's a good price to pay, I think. But really good for you to come here, come to this session here. If any of you were seeing the session just before lunch, they were talking a lot about core AI and those sort of practical applications of how we can build AI into our businesses, into our systems, and generate value out of it, and what we need to sort of do to be able to sort of get there from a policy, a regulation, a skills perspective. Really interesting. This session builds on that somewhat by focusing much more on a sector which I know is super important from an India perspective, the manufacturing sector. So looking at manufacturing in India, how we can leverage technologies such as AI, but also do it in a very people-centric way, which is sort of bringing together this concept of technology, man and machine and man together for Industry 5.0. And I hope sort of many of you are familiar with that concept. And if you're not, I promise by the end of this hour, you will be. That is my promise to you. Excellent. So there'll be plenty of time for questions, so do think up your questions as well. While you do think about that, I'm going to invite my panel up here to join me. Three excellent panelists. We're covering a range of different sort of parts of this conversation, so we're going to cover it really, really well. First up, we've got Dr. Bertie Muller, who is the Director for Computer Science, Swansea University. Excellent. Welcome, Bertie. He is also the chair of the Society for the Study of Artificial Intelligence and Simulation of Behaviour. Bertie's an expert in AI ethics and human-machine collaboration, specialising in ensuring transparency and responsibility in AI-driven manufacturing. Welcome, Bertie. Next up, we have Bhuwan Lodha. Please join me up on stage. Bhuwan, who is the Chief Executive of the AI division of Mahindra Group. Really looking forward to sort of hearing what all of this means from a Mahindra perspective. So thank you for joining us here today. And Lingraju Sawkar, please come up and join me. Welcome. Is the Chief Executive of Kyndryl in India. And he is an experienced technology leader, excuse me, leader driving infrastructure and workforce transformation at Kyndryl in India. So thank you, gentlemen, for joining me here today. As I said before, we've got about an hour with you, so lots of time to explore this topic, and I will make plenty of opportunity for some questions as we go through as well. So I've been here for the last sort of day and a half, and I know this audience is no shortage of questions, so I'm sort of confident we're going to get some good questions out of you as well. So, gentlemen, I might just start sort of big picture on Industry 5.0 here, because it is a relatively new concept we're talking about here. So there might be sort of different, we were talking a little bit earlier before the session, there's sort of different ways of thinking about it, different definitions, different sort of understandings of whether it's sort of a trend which follows Industry 4.0 or whether it's something completely new and different, or whether they work together. So I'd love to get your sort of feel on your thoughts on this, so we can sort of help our audience here sort of understand a bit more where we're coming from with Industry 5.0. Can I go with you through it, Bhuwan? Welcome.
Thank you, Charles, and happy to be here. We were discussing earlier about distinction between 4.0 and 5.0 and how it feels in our head. Very sequential, because there is 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. For me, it feels like we have to have 4.0 and 5.0 go hand in hand. 4.0 is all about bringing machines into manufacturing, bringing connectivity, bringing data and data-driven decision making on the shop floor. And 5.0 brings this abstract concept of humans and machines working together. I think as machines evolve in their capabilities to manufacture faster, better, cheaper, humans will also evolve in how they use these machines and how we program these machines. So I think 4.0 and 5.0, at least in the state that we are in, need to go hand in hand. We need to be able to make strides in reprogramming humans and our workforce at the shop floor in manufacturing. As we get more advanced machines, as we program our machines to be more smarter, and bring AI on the shop floor and bring IoT on the shop floor and make everything on the shop floor more smarter.
Excellent. Yeah, no, thank you. Lots of points there I'm going to dig into over the next hour in terms of sort of people, applications, etc. Bertie, from your perspective, when you're thinking about Industry 5.0 or 5.0 or 5 or however we like to talk about it, what are you thinking about in that context?
So I firstly agree with Bhuwan on this vision of having machines and humans working hand in hand. But to me, Industry 5 is also something that stretches further, that goes all the way to the consumer and makes the consumer part of that manufacturing process. So looking at personalization of products, looking at a communication between those in the manufacturing line and the actual consumer or the customer. That, to me, is one of the main things where AI can help us and where humans can play a significant and meaningful role in that process as job skills and job descriptions will undoubtedly change over the next years.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, sort of the adoption of AI for many organisations is a challenge here. This is just another step, more challenging step sort of beyond that of trying to bring humans very much into the loop for better outcomes from it. Interesting. From your perspective, what are you thinking about when you think about Industry 5.0? Well, you want to take...
Yeah, thank you. So I have a,
Thank you.
I sort of add on to what they say, but a little bit of, I would say a little bit of controversial view. I think Industry 5.0 is about trying to find a balance. Industry 4.0, we sped too much with speed into efficiency, automation, and a lot of standardization because of intervention of technology. And somewhere in that journey, we realized that, look, there is an element of personalization, there's an element of a further value addition that people would do, and that was sort of needed to be a balance to be brought back. So in my view, 5.0 is a balance between extreme automation and extreme technology on one side, but missing out on the human capital and missing out on bringing back the human creativity back into the process, so that what you get out is the benefit of what 4.0 had, but a degree of specialization, customization, and a human-centric element into the final outcome, whether it's a process or a product. So that's how I probably look at 5.0.
Excellent. And when we're thinking about Industry 5.0, I don't know how many people out here are sort of familiar with the Gartner hype cycle of sort of emerging technologies. And so we like to think about it in terms of sort of peak of inflated expectations or trough of disillusionment or productivity. And I think with some, certainly if you think specifically about AI, where sort of various applications of AI are sort of going through inflated expectations, trough of disillusionment, some productivity obviously gain out of that as well. Industry 5.0, where do you think, where are we sitting if you were thinking about our sort of a level of development around that? Are you seeing any sort of real adoption of it at the moment?
Look, we can adopt things that are, and technologies that exist.
Yes.
I think Industry 5.0 will need not just new technologies, but also new mindsets. and new types of people and a new workforce to work in manufacturing. Is there hype? Are we on the left side of the curve? Are we on the right side of the curve? I think Industry 5.0 is a long game. It's not a technology. It's a revolution, like it is called. And while AI climbed up the hype cycle, like we are seeing now, AI is actually getting into the zone where productivity, ROI, etc., is being some ways questioned. There was a question in the previous panel also about, is there a balance between investment versus ROI of AI?
Yeah.
I think we'll have to go through this phase of adopting technology on the shop floor, which gives us the right ROI. And then Industry 5.0 will bring the right mindsets to use that technology, to use the newer ways, the newer machines in a human-centered way, and allow for new ways for us to do things on the shop floor. Right now, I think we're still scratching the surface on an abstract level of what Industry 5.0 means. I think it means very different things when the AI capabilities fully play out. I also believe, while AI has crossed the hype cycle, everything that was hyped is less than what's actually possible. And hence, the capability that will get unlocked with smarter machines, with smarter software, and with smarter products coming out of the manufacturing floor, the definition of Industry 5.0 will also kind of evolve.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. We are sort of in that evolving stage of Industry 5.0 at the moment, trying to figure out what it means for different industries and where that sort of value and productivity and things are gonna come from. Any sort of agreement, disagreement in terms of where we are?
Yeah, maybe as we're in this transition process from automation to more autonomy in the manufacturing business, we're seeing the workforce struggling with the job description, job satisfaction. So I see Industry 5 also as a proactive step to increase that job satisfaction of the workforce by including them more in the processes, making their jobs more meaningful. And of course that means that their skills will be different to what they are at the moment. And we'll come to a section, I guess, on skills a little bit later on. But also it means that we are, as a society, looking into taking this step to a new industrial revolution into our hands and not just accepting what comes, but deliberately planning and hoping to make things work for society. Because otherwise, there's a huge risk of this whole idea kind of imploding on us.
Yes.
I think, if I may, from the way things have evolved, and one of the core thing of Industry 4.0 was computing at the edge. You had, you were able to deploy good amount of computing power to process data and information at the edge. I think what it now 5.0 does is it also focus on expertise at the edge. In the previous world, you had expertise centrally designing systems, designing processes, and deployed at the edge, and things were supposed to follow prescribed path. It did not value the expertise at the edge, which is the worker at the edge. I think now, along with computing at the edge, it's expertise at the edge that sort of adds the added difference so that you're able to bring a lot more value into the outcome and the creativity. So I would say expertise at the edge is a big input right now, along with the computing at the edge.
Excellent. You've all mentioned sort of skills and expertise in some way, so I might move on to that now and have you can't talk about any of these topics without talking about skills and the expertise needed to sort of drive it forward. For those of you listening to the session just before lunch, the question was asked about the right sort of skills that might need to try and grow and thrive in the AI world. And one of the panelists said sort of deep mathematics skills was something that you needed. I'm not sure if I fully agree with that. I'm sure there's sort of a part of the audience, or part of the workforce that does need that, needs to understand sort of what's happening underneath the lid. But I think there might be some other skills required, and I wonder if my panelists have a sort of a view on this, the sorts of skills. When you're sort of recruiting for the future at Mahindra, what are the sort of things that you're thinking about in terms of that skill base?
See, with technology advancing at the rate it is advancing, we've seen the previous phase when internet came and knowledge became commodity. It became democratized. Everybody has perfect reach and perfect access to knowledge. I think with newer technologies, we are also seeing certain types of skill, or some types of skills will become democratized. He talked about having skills and expertise on the edge. I think there are certain types of expertise which humans will not need to have, because those expertise are served 1,000 times better by a machine than by a human brain, and 24/7 and always available at a low cost in all languages and so on. And I'll give you one example. Look, we had predictive maintenance on the shop floor, and we were able to predict using AI and using many technologies if a machine is going to fail at some point in time. But machines still fail, right? I mean, we of course implemented quite a bit of that and reduced the need to repair a machine, and we were able to proactively repair machines before they were able to fail and so on. So with technology, we were bringing down the rate at which you would need to intervene in a machine repair process. But still machines fail, because not everything is built in the new world. There are legacy machines as well, and machines fail. Then comes our ability to repair machines when humans come in, right? You need an expert to know what to do with an error code that's flashing on an industrial robot. And depending on the age of the plant or age of the machine, the mean time to repair any equipment could be anywhere from 30 minutes to 3 hours. If you actually break this down into what happens during the repair process, about half the time is used to diagnose the problem, collect data, and check what have we done in the past to deal with these kind of failures. And the remaining 50-60% of the time is actually about repairing the machine, right? Doing something, changing a part, or fixing, patching the software and so on. I think the expertise required to address the first part will not be needed to be with humans anymore.
Yeah.
Because at Mahindra we've deployed what we call uptime.ai. These are maintenance co-pilots, where if a maintenance guy, if a guy who maintains machines on the shop floor gets a call to repair a machine or to address to a robot failure, is able to punch in the exact error code. And then there is an AI engine that goes through all the documents we have in the past of how we've dealt with these kind of failures in the morning, in the winters, in the nights. What does the machine OEM's user manual say? Bring out a very simple step-by-step process in the local language, let's say Karnataka or Marathi, to the guy who's supposed to execute the task of repairing the machine. So here goes 50% of skills that are required to diagnose the problem, to understand the user manual, to go through the documents. And this is simple commodity AI. This is not even rocket science. This is simple machine intelligence that's available at very cheap cost today. The expertise that is required now is very different. The expertise that is required now is how to be more resilient, how to ensure that a machine failure does not result in production stoppage. Or in case that happens, how do we optimize the rest of the shift in order to make the most of the time that we have lost, etc. So I think the kind of expertise will also change as Industry 4.0 matures and we bring the newer technologies onto the shop floor for people to use in their day-to-day work.
Yeah, no, thank you. Really interesting to sort of hear you talk through the sort of the weeds of what that looks like at Mahindra. I think about it in sort of two parts, sort of the existing workforce that you have that needs to sort of adapt and change for this, and the new workforce coming into the organization. And I guess from an India perspective, India does a really good job of building a really highly skilled workforce to sort of drive growth and innovation in this country. Do you think we're setting ourselves up well to do that, to provide the workforce that's going to fuel this?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. I think the manufacturing jobs were traditionally associated with or were seen as blue-collar labor work.
Yeah.
I think that's changing. If you see the kind of talent that's leading our manufacturing work today, there are people who understand data, there are people who understand how robots work, there are people who understand how to play out scenarios, how to debottleneck a certain supply chain situation. And I think that's the kind of skills that we will bring into the workforce. And those are the kind of trainings that we'll have to impart to people on the shop floor in the manufacturing plants. Rather than the skills of the traditional mindset. It's about doing more in an assembly line fashion.
Excellent. Bertie, from your perspective, obviously you come from Europe or UK now, but from your perspective, are you seeing something similar trends around skills? Any of the demand side of it? What does it look like from your viewpoint?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Maybe I start slightly differently. I think there's been a lot of focus on STEM skills in the past few years. And I firmly believe that this is maybe the wrong direction, only focusing on this, because, as I said before, the human skills that will collaborate with the AI, with technology, will involve creativity, will involve emotional intelligence, those communication skills and, in some sense, things that we know the AI will very unlikely be able to learn. And that's where the problem starts. We use words and we anthropomorphize AI very often that make us believe the AI actually understands, make us believe the AI thinks. And this is exacerbated by the new versions of LLMs that you find that give you a prompt, still thinking on this, reconsidering and so on. Well, it isn't really. It's just applying its statistics. And these sort of skills that AI is very good at, it's going to be futile for us to try and come up with some upskilling that will put us on the same level. That's not going to happen. We have to consider those other skills that can complement the pure kind of mathematical skills and direct problem-solving skills, if it is even problem-solving or only kind of mathematical reasoning. It's not even reasoning that's in modern LLMs. And that's really where I find it very hard to convince industry to still keep investing in jobs that do those things that we kind of envisioned the AI taking over. Because we've seen with, again, LLMs, that there is a tendency of the LLM's outputs polluting the inputs of the next learning cycles and not learning anything new. It just learns from maybe slightly incorrect or not always correct outputs of its companion LLMs. And that is something that we have to avoid in manufacturing. We need to still have those skills from which future AI can learn, and we need to develop those further in the sense of critical thinking and kind of adapting what is currently done to a new audience. So that kind of extension and innovation that we as humans can drive very well because we interact socially with those other humans that we build the systems for and that we build and make the products for. So if we have an AI that is good at what we're doing right now, that will kind of prohibit us from meaningfully develop new technology and new ideas for future products. And that's where I think that critical thinking and maybe humanities can actually help us deal with AI. The other thing, of course, is that a lot of the workforce, a lot of the end users will interact with AI and will have to kind of be aware of what the AI can actually do. And maybe I can give a very brief case study of some AI evaluation process that we carried out recently. And that's something that we don't really know how to do. So this was a pilot. Evaluating AI is something, especially in healthcare situations, that nobody really knows how that should work and could work. But, well, we evaluated a process, and I'm not going to go into details. The AI was built to be very cautious, and it kind of over-exaggerated the importance almost always. There was a human in the loop who then made the final decision. And they thought, well, the AI will learn eventually, so I will under-exaggerate. So I'll go way below what I would normally classify this as. Now, the AI was not built to learn at all. So that kind of idea of what an AI is capable of needs to be clearly communicated to those using the AI. Otherwise, we might end up in a dilemma.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, we are still at that point where we're really trying to understand what these large language models, how they work, whether they learn. I sort of was under the impression somewhat that they do get a bit better the more you sort of use it because they learn from your sort of behaviour, but I guess to a certain point and an extent. And I think the critical sort of thinking part of it is important. What about from your perspective? You think that's sort of, if you're sort of ranking the sort of skills that you might need to be able to sort of thrive in this Industry 5.0 world, would you put sort of critical thinking up near the top, or is it STEM, or is it something else?
I think it's definitely taking it to the next level. An example that we do in our industry from the IT services business, where we manage mission-critical environments of various industries. Like he spoke about troubleshooting. The whole approach of troubleshooting or solving a problem when you hit a severity 1 kind of a scenario is you bring a bunch of experts and they're trying to troubleshoot in a structured manner. But you also know that 95% of the problems have already happened in the past. You've found a way to resolve it. It's just that when you're trying to get to that information, you're not finding an intelligent way to access it. I think what we've done, and through these technologies, using AI and Gen AI, we are now able to quickly get to the point saying, hey, if this has happened in the past, this is how it was resolved, and this is the path. Now, that not only reduces the time to resolve, but now it allows the expertise at the edge to start thinking about saying, how do I prevent it from happening again? So how do I move from a speed to resolve, a speed to respond as a measure into making it more predictive, proactive, and preventive? So I think that's where the human interface along with the technology makes a big impact. And I see this coming up a lot more. Taking on the experience angle, I think you did allude to the fact that there's different workforce coming in at all the time. And that's where the experience and expertise, or the experience of one generation of workforce can actually feed and help the next generation who's coming in, because while we're all wired similarly, but we all process differently, and different, whether Gen Zs or the Gen Xs or Gen Alphas, they process it differently based on the environments they've been brought up with, the schooling systems that they've gone with, the kind of things they're exposed to. So keeping that as an element, but leveraging on the experience, I think you can deal and solve much better now.
That sounds like a nice balance. Did you want to add something there? No.
So I think because you brought the software analogy to this. I think we are, it's very clear that the way software development is changing with technology, where you need more critical thinking, creativity, etc. as core skills, as machines get better at doing the mathematical and the logic and the algorithmic work. I think the same thing will play out on the manufacturing side also, where the hard skills of how to write a certain function or how to, paint a panel will go to the machines, and you have to be, as humans, the skills that you need will be very different and will be more around critical thinking, about, being resilient, about being creative and so on. I think the skills in various industries will change as technology takes the center stage.
Excellent. We've talked quite a lot about this, of the people elements of this, and how it sort of machines come together with people for better human outcomes through technology. One thing that's often talked about when we talk about Industry 5.0 is the sustainability angle to it. Now, for those that don't have still learning about Industry 5.0 and what it is and what it means, could one of you sort of help us sort of understand how does this sort of link up with sustainability, better sustainability outcomes for Industry 5.0? How do we sort of achieve that? Where's that angle coming from? Bhuwan?
I think sustainability will of course be a big beneficiary of the revolution that will go through. Industry 4.0 itself is doing so much of optimization of how much resources are used, how we're able to measure our sustainability metrics and report back, and hence, anything that you measure only you can improve. So I think with tech we've seen that we are now able to measure, and we are able to make interventions in the areas where we believe there is scope for optimization, whether it is emissions or it is waste and so on. I think with Industry 4.0 concept coming in, the decision making for what is the right thing to do from a sustainability perspective will be very different, because right now the decision making that happens on the edge is more or less decisions that we make to optimize locally. I have a problem at this moment, I have a situation and I need to make a decision, and hence you optimize locally and make a decision to solve that problem. I think when humans and machines work together, the decisions that we'll be able to make on the shop floor, in the manufacturing industries, etc., will be able to account for optimizing not just for a current problem, but for our strategic goals like sustainability. Like how does this decision affect energy consumption for the next two shifts? Is something that humans cannot think on the edge before making decisions, but machines will. And hence I think machines and humans working together in the new world will have huge impact on how we're able to measure, improve, as well as set new benchmarks for sustainability.
Excellent. Bertie, from your perspective, what are you sort of seeing out there from this sort of sustainability angle of Industry 5.0? Any sort of examples?
Yeah, so certainly we would look at sustainability in terms of avoiding waste and optimizing energy. The crux to me here is really that optimization that we try to perform. And that is something where I think as AI developers and developers of modern technology, we might need to take a step back and look at what traditional AI, symbolic AI does. The search for solutions to problems there is usually just a search in a big state space where you apply some optimization according to certain constraints. You define what is the utility, what makes you perform well against other competitors. And that kind of optimization you don't get with the simple machine learning. So again, here you need an understanding and maybe knowledge representation, again, a concept from more traditional AI, and combine that with machine learning. And the step towards that will be in a trained workforce who can actually understand the problems and build those optimizations into the machine learning assisted processes. So for example, if you look at the textile industry, of course, your fabric is quite expensive. You don't want to waste any. But you might have to look at the constraints depending on the garment you're producing. You might want to pattern match. You might have to go with the weave of the product, or you'll end up with something that very easily tears. And that understanding, a simple ML model, even a more complex machine learning model, might not have. So again, we interact as humans with the smart technology and should be looking at combining those modern AI technologies with the more traditional ones in a way that's beneficial to the manufacturing process.
I mean, so the way you're talking about this, it does really require sort of deep knowledge and expertise around sort of the process and the sector still. So that's still going to be a very important component of this.
Yeah, I mean, it's always, essentially I've been preaching this to my students and to businesses for many, many years. Anything you do with computers, with automation, with technology, you have to see in a context, and that context is so important. Just an off-the-shelf product will not solve all your problems.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, I think picking on his textile example, right, it's very relevant. If you extend it further to the fashion industry, the biggest challenge, as well as where most of the time goes into, is predicting the next season's design and predicting what will sell in the next season, while you know what's there in the past season, what's the inventory lying there, and what you deal with it, right? So I think with technology and AI and every real-time data flowing in, as well as consumer behavior inputs coming in on real-time, and you can process that using AI, designers are able to make the right decisions about figuring out what's the next thing that will sell, but also in the right quantities, and also having the flexibility to change the design based on any other nuances that come into. Now, taking that to one level further, I think you did talk about a shoe company, was it Adidas or Nike, who now are able to manufacture to a design of one. I mean, you can personalize your design, you can order it, and through technology and through the expertise, you're able to get a shoe designed for your taste, for your thing, and that takes personalizing to a very different level. Then there's no wastage. You're not manufacturing hundreds of A-designed shoes and then waiting for it to sell, but you're now getting to a very personalized level of manufacture. But of course, the cost benefits start coming into play, and at some point in time when they even out, then I think you'll not have inventories anymore. You'll be designing and selling to a customer of one.
Yeah, the personalization element to this is something which is really interesting, something we've been sort of thinking about. This sort of mass hyper-personalization of products has been talked about quite a lot. I think I was telling a story earlier. I think for a long period of time, there's this view of the future where we'd all have a 3D printer at home, and we'd buy a personalized pattern for that, then get it printed up in our 3D printer, and we'd all have something very tailored to us. We haven't really got to that direction yet, maybe because the being able to produce the things with the complexity that we need is very difficult with a sort of a home 3D type of printer. But it's exciting to think about that personalization piece. Bertie, what about from your perspective? Have you seen any good examples of this sort of coming out in industry from a personalization perspective within manufacturing?
Well, as you just mentioned, over lunch we talked about this project Shoe 5.0. And this is a European Commission funded project working with the shoe industry in Portugal predominantly, and looking at ways how customized shoes, personalized shoes can be made in this kind of collaborative way of using some augmented reality techniques, AI techniques, distributed manufacturing, distributed and more flexible, agile kind of sourcing of products, but also, of course, that design element, personalization of the shoes. And that's all perfectly fine, makes a lot of sense. I think it's got a good future, but part of that is because designing a pair of shoes will ultimately not have any safety issues. So I can say, I just want the shoe in the front to look like a pair of shoes that I've seen somewhere, and in the back on the heel, I want something applied, and that's fine. It won't have any effect on how well I can walk in these shoes, if I'm somewhat sensible anyway. However, you can't do that in other manufacturing industries. If you look at automotive, you can't just say, I want the front of this car and the back of this car, and that comes back to compositionality of safety properties. That simply isn't possible. You can't just build things that look nice and still guarantee that they operate safely, and hence there's limitations there. I'm sure we'll make progress towards that, but that is maybe something for Industry 6.
I'd love to get Bhuwan's view on that, what sort of personalization of cars might sort of look like in the future. Maybe we can I get a different front end and a back end? Is that something that's going to be possible? Or is
every product finally aims to be personalized for every customer.
Yes.
So irrespective whether it's a car or a shoe, the eventual goal is that it should be made for the customer, and we should be able to understand the customer needs in a way that we're able to personalize the product and deliver it in a fully personalized way. And that's the goal with auto industry as well, with newer technologies and Industry 4.0 and AI and our ability to connect customer data all the way back into the shop floor. We will surely be able to put more choice in the hand of our customers. And imagine being able to have more than 2 or 3 choices of types of variants in your car, to having dozens of choices, right? And that's possible today because we're able to bring understanding of the customer down to the manufacturing floor in real time, able to optimize our supply chain, parts, quality, production lines, etc., and able to manufacture multiple variants of the same product and meet more needs of the customer and meet them where they are.
But will there always, I was going to ask, would there always be a trade-off between the personalization and the cost, though, or you can't have sort of one without the other?
In some industries, it will become a norm to personalize everything. Like you personalize your iPhone today. It is a hardware.
Yeah.
But then everyone's iPhone or everyone's Android phone looks very different. And it is in technical terms, every iPhone, every mobile phone, smartphone in this room has a different SKU, because you've added apps to it, you've added customizations, you've added accessories. So it's a different SKU. I think as traditional products like auto become more and more software defined, the personalization of software and the way the hardware is used by the software to deliver the optimum experience will define how we are able to meet the personalization needs of customers without actually bearing the cost of personalized hardware for every customer. I think that's what 90% of the iPhones here might have the same parts, but they are different. They are different. The colors are, let's say, 7-8 colors, but each iPhone, each Android phone, each Samsung phone is very different. And that's the same principle we should apply to any manufacturer.
Bertie?
Yeah, can I just jump in here? I think there's always a limit to personalization, and this will be in the design of your system that you're using in the end. What's very important is that there are always some assumptions that your manufacturing process will make. And those assumptions will be based on kind of averages. Those averages are what we often find as possibly biased decisions. So in making those decisions based on averages, we have to really make sure that in our Industry 5 processes, the systems we use are designed and maintained and supervised by a diverse set of humans. And by diversity, what springs to mind, of course, always is ethnic diversity, maybe gender diversity. We're not doing a very good job here on this panel. But it's more than that. It's diversity of kind of knowledge, of ideas, of way of thinking. And we need to bring together around a table really as many different people as possible to ensure that our systems aren't in the end flawed by making those assumptions that only cater for a certain subgroup of our clients.
Excellent. Good point. I'm going to get to sort of, we've been a bit rosy at the moment. I'm going to get to the challenges and risks sort of associated with this in a moment, but I might just have a first call out for any questions that we have here in the room. Excellent. We have a gentleman just here in the front row, if we could get a microphone to him. If you could just let us know your name and where you're from, that'd be great.
My name is Prajwal Bhatt. I represent a company called Gravis. We are into predictive side and optimization side, specifically for the manufacturers. Bhuwan did mention about Gen AI and Lingraju mentioned about predictive part. My question on human-centric manufacturing and AI integration, how do you see AI-driven analytics and predictive intelligence shaping the human-centric approach in Industry 5.0? I'm talking about this specifically from the SMEs context because for them it is also a high capital investment. So that's something that you guys can speak about. Thank you.
Does anyone have a...
Okay, let me attempt right. I think, in fact, we were having a discussion a little while over lunch saying that one of the biggest benefits that can come across is for the MSME sector, because if you take an MSME manufacturing entity, small, largely people or owner driven kind of a thing, and more importantly, doing batch jobs or kind of a approach. And it's usually to somebody's design or maybe their own design as well. I think with the intervention, there's an element of cost, I'll come to that. I think with the intervention of the whole thing about the technology at the edge and an ability to work through, I think the ability for the MSME to come out with a lot more value addition in the design process, a lot more practicalities into the outcome of the product, and also leveraging the technology that is there helps him to really get a better outcome. Now, having said that, you're right, the question of investment and thing comes in, and that's where one of the areas that I probably would look at is the policy, the role of the government and the policies, right? So how do you frame policies that help in setting up those hubs where skilling becomes the cost of skilling is taken care of, the cost of initial investment or putting it to practice is taken care of, and that's where government policies start playing a very critical role, so that in a way the entire cost doesn't get burdened onto that one unit, but it sort of lifts the whole ecosystem up through government policies. That's one. Second is even through the form of organizations and where they spend. Today, I don't think AI and skilling definitely is a CSR enabled program. So this AI education, AI skilling and AI enablement, as it goes through that, it will lift the whole skilling profile so that it reduces the burden on a unit to carry the entire load. That's how I see it coming across.
Bhuwan, did you want to add something there?
I think it's right that large industries and traditionally big players will be able to skill at scale. I think a similar intervention will be required for MSMEs as well, where the expertise of the future required to work in the Industry 5.0 world is available at every scale. The good news is it is not a game of scale. Skill is not a game of scale. Skill is a game of individual capability of learning, changing mindsets, and being able to adapt. And hence, if you're able to apply that in MSMEs and going up the value chain, I think we will see the beneficiaries of this will be, of course, quality of the product, costs will go down, our predictability of productions will go up, etc. So I think it has to start from MSMEs, SMEs as well, and kind of flow upstream as well.
Excellent. Thank you for the question. Oh, sorry,
Just
Bertie.
very briefly, talking about the industry landscape, SMEs being predominantly the kind of organization size here in India. This is actually very similar in Wales. So we have lots and lots of SMEs, and the problem is, will they all have their AI experts? Of course not. So building skill pools and trying to build synergies amongst similar-minded SMEs is something that the Welsh government has tried to support, and that's something I think that is ultimately very important to be successful.
Yeah, good point. Really important topic, talking about SMEs and them not missing out on these sorts of opportunities sort of right around the world. We all know the sort of details they drive sort of the vast majority of GDP and growth within a country. So super important. More questions. I can see one hand up here right at the back in the middle. Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon. Really enjoyed listening to your wisdom as well. As you know, we are living in a VUCA environment. There's so much of uncertainty and volatility. And you did talk about mindset shift. I wanted to understand how much of leadership had to play a role, because when we are going through a lot of change, right, you see employees either taking blames, excuses, or denial, or how do you get that mindset shift from blame to taking ownership and accountability? Because that's important when it comes to execution, right? Especially any of these technologies like a revolution, you need employees believing in and taking those right actions to get the results. So I wanted to understand your perspective. How do we get that mindset shift for an employees to get really engaged and help the business leaders to execute the vision, and how much of leaders have to play a role in that as well?
Yeah, it's a good question, sort of trying to get employees on with the cultural change, the mind shift change needed to help sort of drive this forward and grow it. I guess, yeah, I'm keen to know from your sort of perspective, from your organizations, that how do you sort of build that culture, that innovation, that questioning, that curiosity culture?
I think it was mentioned in the first session in the morning about building the culture where people learn to learn. I think one of the things that needs to cut across the organization is this capability to learn. It does not matter whether you are senior management or you're just starting your career. If you're able to learn and if you know how to learn new technologies, I think the adaptability always comes in. And in order for us to move from where we are to a world in which, you know, we are working with machines seamlessly and machines are doing most of the work and we are being creative in making the right decisions at the right time, I think it requires a lot of unlearning as well. And hence, creating that culture of learning from a senior management perspective, and also being able to unlearn things that we've been used to in the past is very important. Look, most of the AI work that people are doing today did not exist a few years back. And if somebody tells you that they've done Gen AI for 10 years, of course not. I mean, leave aside a few people. Not too many people had heard of generative AI or large models and so on. And everybody adapted. I think that's the advantage we also have in India, where our ability to learn, absorb, adapt is so high that across levels, if a new technology is seen as something that can benefit us in our quality, in our outputs, and deliver outcomes for us, I think inherently as population we are keen to learn that and use it to our advantage. So I'm very hopeful that this will play out well for us.
We've done a bit of work on this at Economist Impact, and we sort of asked business leaders the most important trait for them to sort of build an innovative organisation and get the most value out of new technologies. The number one trait was stating a really clear vision of what they were trying to achieve as an organisation. The second most important trait was quite close, was actually being able to communicate that vision and get the workforce excited about and bring them along for the journey. And so a hugely important role to play from the top of the business there. Yes?
If I may add on, right, I think it's a very deep question that he's brought out. This problem has, no, I wouldn't say problem, this is a question that's been there for all along since whatever time, but looking at if you take one frame of saying that, look, experience is a strength, but experience is also a liability, and hence, because of the experience that you've got, you tend to not learn new stuff, or you're not open to new things. So that's the whole thing about a fixed mindset and a growth mindset and everything that revolves around it. I think the coexistence of experience with the newness, the coexistence of the value of experience that goes into enable the new workforce to learn, but also give back through reverse mentoring, through new stuff that learn across, is a great way to sort of keep the learning quotient of the organization high. But it is a question that's haunting and stays with organizations forever, that how do they make their organization a far more nimble and learning, adaptable to new stuff versus doing the same things and not being open to new ideas.
Excellent. Thank you. More questions. There was one over here before. Okay, just on the edge of the aisle on this side over here. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you very much for the nice talk on Industry 5.0. First of all, I want to understand that artificial intelligence, AI, is equal to multi-dimensional optimization technique. It's nothing new. In this multidimensional optimization techniques, these days we just consider the human factors and how the human being is thinking on the problem-solving path. So, for me, this artificial intelligence is not new branch, not new stream, rather than it is multi-dimensional optimization technique. That's it. One thing I want to comment on you, that you said the customized car cannot be possible in future because the external design of the car is optimized for the aerodynamic efficiency in order to have the better fuel efficiency. So, however, interior design you can have, but the external car you cannot produce just for the choice of the customers. No, it cannot be done. In the same way, customized aircraft design cannot be possible. Interior design inside the aircraft is possible. Of course it is possible, but external, not possible, because it is optimized design by the engineers, by the scientists. So there is some limitations. You cannot have the, customized, for the shoe it is possible. Shoe can be customized according to the requirement, according to the choice of the customer. But for the delicate engineering, things like your car or the passenger bus or truck or any other, whatever you are seeing for the passenger aircraft, you cannot design according to the requirement of just the choice of the customer. But it is also the constraint is safety, constraint is engineering, constraint is fuel efficiency.
Yeah, so, I think it's a good point on the personalization element of it. Thank you. Did you have a question?
Question is, why we call it artificial intelligence? It should be multi-dimensional optimization technique. That's it.
So I didn't quite hear the question. Did you hear that? I know it's about cars.
No, I don't think so. He's saying, why is it called AI?
Sorry, could you repeat the question? We can try and answer it.
Artificial intelligence is multidimensional optimization technique. Why we call artificial intelligence? It's nothing new.
That's a good question. I think we might focus some of our discussion on the manufacturing industry 5.0 rather than trying to get into sort of big definitions around AI. But it's something good to sort of think about, because we've only got a couple of minutes left. So I'm sorry, I'm going to have to cut you off there.
Sure.
I might just leave. I know there's a couple more hands there, but I just wanted to sort of leave us with a bit of a future-gazing piece around Industry 5.0 and manufacturing here, and sort of get a view from you and sort of what sort of excites you about the future that we might be able to achieve with this sort of human-machine sort of collaboration into the future. What sort of those moonshots potentially, if there's any that you see, if anyone sort of saw the sessions earlier this morning?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I'm very excited about is not just how the new industrial revolution, be it inclusive of AI, Industry 4.0, IoT, and then 5.0, will change how we do manufacturing and how manufacturing processes work. But what do we need to do in order to build quality, build optimization, etc.? I think the content of the work for human beings and human resources will change. And the kind of people who will come into manufacturing, the kind of talent that will drive manufacturing of the future will be very different from what we have seen in the past. And I'm very excited about how, as machines take over things that we've traditionally been relying on humans to do, what kind of skills, what kind of human intelligence and creativity comes into the manufacturing process, and how we bring customers' preferences, customers' choices, customers' mindset on the manufacturing floor. So that's how I think it will play out, and I'm very excited.
Well, it's pretty exciting, and any sort of big change like that is opportunity, and certainly something I hope India's setting themselves up for success for around that. We will just see, we've got a big time's up sign here, but just very sort of briefly, Bertie, love to hear what sort of excites you about the future, and then I'll hear from you last.
Yeah, so what I find exciting is that at some point we'll be handing over responsibility to machines, and those machines will be negotiating with other machines. And of course that comes with lots of challenges and problems, but it will free up some of the capacity that we as humans have, and that's at the very heart of Industry 5. So looking forward to that, and unfortunately we don't have another hour to just talk about responsibility. But we do have to keep in mind that our machines will hopefully be designed with responsibility in mind, but they won't have responsibility themselves, at least not in the near future.
That's a good point.
I think from my perspective, it's the excitement and the opportunity and the challenge ahead is the adaptability of the human race. Human race has always been very adaptable to where the technology changes and it's evolved. Now, I believe at this point in time with AI and with the human interface, it's up for a very different form of challenge to see how the human race will adapt to this and then evolve to the next, as I see. So continuing adaptability of the human race with technology at such a very different level of impact, I would say, is an excitement to look forward to.
Excellent. And I just think it's really exciting from a sort of a workforce perspective as well, because with the change, there's huge opportunities for people who want to embrace this change to be able to sort of, really sort of lean into it and find out new ways of working and developing and growing and creating value. And it's, super exciting times, I think, ahead. So thank you very much for all of your comments and your insights. Thank you for the questions here. Sorry we couldn't get to everybody, but I do appreciate your questions. So if you could all join me in thanking our panelists here. It was excellent. Thank you.